Superman.
Miss Lane.
Hey, buddy, eyes up here.
Hey everyone, welcome back to The Road to Superman. This is episode 100 and I have just seen the movie. Well, I saw it last night, but I needed to sleep on it to truly process what I saw. Now, this has been an incredible journey. We started on January 16th, 2024, and now a year and a half later, the movie is finally out and I have seen it. I've been so excited to see this film, and before we get into my review, I just wanted to say that everyone is entitled to their own opinion. For some reason online, anyone that loves the movie is a studio shill, and anyone who hates the movie is a Snyder cultist, but that's not necessarily the case. So please, let's just try and keep it respectful. But now on with my spoiler-free review. So without giving much away, this film is very fast-paced. The first hour is very quick in establishing what's going on in this movie and universe, and I don't think it does the story any favors. The opening 20 minutes works so well, and I was glued to my screen, but after that main moment that happens in that opening 20 minutes, for the next 40 minutes or so, things don't really slow down, and it makes it really difficult to process what's going on, and it feels quite clunky. There are some really great scenes throughout that 40 minutes, but because it's rushing around so much, we don't really get to spend too much time with any of those moments, so many of them are cut short. And because it was so fast-paced, but set in a brand new universe, this meant there was a lot of exposition. In the first hour, it wasn't subtle at all, and I guess that's a drawback of starting a DC reboot with a fast-paced film in a universe where many of these things existed before when this film is set, meaning there's not really any natural introduction to anything that gives a natural explanation, so they have to give all this exposition. Really, it should be that thing of show don't tell, and they were telling a lot in that first fast-paced hour, and it really stood out to me. However, the second hour really slowed down a bit, and I think that's where the movie really had its strongest moments. It was like the first hour was there to get you up to speed as quick as possible, whilst also juggling a story as well, and then the second hour was really able to just focus on the story. And it's where I began loving this movie, but it was still very fast-paced. And the majority of this movie is accompanied by John Murphy and David Fleming's score, and it was basically just the Superman music from the trailers, which was good, but it meant the film didn't really expand too far beyond that. It wasn't really that epic and didn't evolve too much, but it was still very good. I imagine it's because I've watched the trailer so many times that I've heard that music, and maybe that's lessened the impact for me. However, the Luthor theme was very unique, and I did love that. But what I did feel with the score was if they were going to use the original Superman theme, then they should have used the original Love theme as well, because that Love theme is as important to Superman and Lois as the main theme is to Superman. So if you have one but not the other, then it feels like a wasted opportunity, especially when the new Clark and Lois theme was pretty weak, at least in my opinion. Now, the acting from everyone was brilliant. No one was slacking, and this is definitely one of the best casts we've had in a superhero film for a while. They really helped sell this story and the emotions they were feeling. And talking of this story, I thought there were so many great storytelling elements, but the pacing did it dirty. I thought the Superman parts specifically were really beautiful, and I will get into why I specifically mentioned the Superman parts in just a second, but just on the Superman parts of the story, they were incredible. Gunn got Superman right. I loved his vulnerability, his love, his trust in everyone, and his hope and optimism. It took me only a few minutes to connect to Superman, and I think I would have loved him even more if we spent more time with him. And his rivalry with Lex Luthor was brilliant to watch as well. Luthor was phenomenal in this movie, almost a perfect villain. He had composure and this pure evil about him, but he was so clearly aware of it. And David Corenswet and Nicholas Hoult were the standouts in this movie for me, and I'm really looking forward to where they go next in their journeys, because I really hope this is a rivalry for years to come. Now, the reason why I focused in on the Superman part specifically is because there are just too many characters in this movie for the pacing and runtime runtime of the film. And I emphasize the pacing and runtime because I feel the extra characters would have worked perfectly if we were able to spend more time with the main characters. But with the runtime and pacing we had, the Justice Gang really just got in the way. And in all honesty, I thought Hawkgirl was pretty pointless other than the one thing she did, but anyone else could have done what she did, or it could have been written differently. The point being, I think you could have removed her character altogether and the film would have been almost the exact same. However, the other two did have some pretty big roles in the film, and I thought Mr. Terrific was awesome in this film, especially his battle at the Luthor Corp facility by the beach. And I actually quite like Guy Gardner as well. The only issue is, they both play major roles in specific parts of this film, but I feel they took away screen time from the characters I was actually there for. They were great, but I would trade their moments for more time with the main Superman crew in a heartbeat. And that was my main issue with this film. It has so many phenomenal moments, but because it's trying to squeeze so much into a 2-hour 10-minute runtime, you just don't get enough of anything and everything goes by too quickly. And so I have this unfair feeling towards the Justice Gang. Their moments were really good, but because we had limited runtime, my feeling is that we wasted time with them that could have been spent with the main characters of this movie. Not even just Superman, Lex Luthor, or Lois Lane, but the Daily Planet crew and Ma and Pa Kent as well. The actual characters that have to be in a Superman movie. There was this really magical feeling of seeing the Daily Planet crew working so fluidly together like they had been a team for years already, and I loved that. Lois was at the center and you could see how great of a journalist she is, but we just didn't spend enough time with any of them. I'd start having a grin on my face, but then I'm suddenly whisked away to another scene, and that kind of scenario happened so many times where I was loving a scene, but we were then taken away from it so quickly. It didn't feel like a natural or satisfying ending to specific scenes, and I think that's my main issue with this film. I loved so much about it, but the pacing and runtime hampered my enjoyment of this movie as a whole. It's like they had so many great moments, but they just struggled to piece them together. And what confuses me is that it's not like this film was getting close to 3 hours long and they needed to trim scenes down. The film without credits was 2 hours long. I would have happily sat there for another 20 to 30 minutes more if it meant we got to take more time with many of these scenes. For instance, there are a couple of things that Superman does off screen that we hear about briefly, but I would have rather have seen that for ourselves than just hear someone talking about it, especially when they are significant events to the movie's plot. So those decisions were a little confusing to me. If it's that major to the plot of the film, then surely we should have seen what happened rather than heard about it in a conversation. So that was a bit disappointing for me. When I know the movie is only 2 hours long, I feel they could have easily extended some scenes which I think would have elevated this movie so easily. However, one of my favorite parts of the film is Clark at Kent Farm. Without seeing too much of Martha and Jonathan, you can instantly feel the love they have for their son, and Jonathan's speech to Clark was so beautiful, and I'm so grateful to Gunn that he let it be a serious moment. He didn't undercut it with humor, and it meant we could really feel the pure emotion of that scene. And to be honest, for 90% of this film, the humor worked really well for me. The 10% that didn't work for me was one moment where Gunn undercut a serious moment with comedy, and it felt a little cliche as well, and I really didn't like that he did that. And I think the others were just some smaller jokes that didn't really land, but they didn't hurt any scenes they were in. But overall, the humor did work for me really well. Now let's talk about Krypto. He's an interesting one for me. He has some really key moments and is more than just a cute dog, and has more of a major role than you think, and I'm really glad about that. His inclusion in the story also gives Superman more opportunities to show his kindness, and I like that because how someone treats an animal is a clear sign of who they are as a person. So I think it was very clever to include Krypto because he is more than just a cute dog. He does have some comedic value, and maybe it does go over the top just slightly, but definitely for the most part, I really loved his inclusion in this film. Now let's talk about the smaller villains. I thought the Engineer was a really cool character, but Ultraman was severely wasted. I can't say much because of spoilers, but I was really hoping there was going to be more to his character than what there was. Metamorpho, however, was really good. Anthony Carrigan's acting was brilliant, and I love the creativity that comes from a character like that, and the action was really cool as well. Gunn is great at using unique camera angles and really creating engaging fight sequences, and he didn't disappoint here, and I'd say it's definitely one of the strongest parts of the movie. Now, the ending of the film for me was cut too short as well. It was a really beautiful scene, but I just wanted a bit more from it, which is kind of the perfect representation of how I feel about the movie as a whole. A really beautiful movie, but I just needed more from it. And it ended in a really lovely way, but I thought it could have just spent an extra 5 to 10 minutes on creating a more satisfying ending. The movie was so fast-paced that we never got to settle with these characters, so I was hoping the ending was going to slow down a bit just so we could say goodbye to these characters before we see them again in a few years' time. But instead, it was just like the rest of the film where it ended very quickly as well. And I feel so conflicted about this film because I loved so many moments, but also felt quite disappointed when they were cut short or even rushed. And this is why I have had to take time before creating a review for this movie. It's not black and white for me. It's not perfect and it's not terrible. And I'm looking at my ranking system and trying to work out where it goes. And the more I've talked about this film, the more my opinion has evolved. And I think the movie is around a 6.5 to a 7.5 out of 10 for me. It's definitely a good film, it's just a case of trying to work out how good it is for me. It's not amazing or above, it's between good and very good, and I think I need to watch the film again to get a better picture of how good I think it was. Now, where does this leave me with the DCU? Honestly, I'm not too sure. I think this movie was a really good start, but just not a great start. There's loads of potential from here, and I think Gunn has the creativity to really create something special. I just think pacing is the issue, and I actually had the same issue with Creature Commandos, so it's going to be interesting to see how things will go moving forward. But I'm glad I liked this film. It's been a really long journey, and sure, I hoped it was going to be one of the best movies of all time, but that's not realistic to expect. But I did enjoy it, and please make sure to let me know your thoughts on the brand new Superman movie in the comments below. And so that looks like it may be the end of the road to Superman. I might do a spoiler review as well, but we shall see. So if this is the end, then what a journey. 100 episodes over a year and a half, covering every update, rumor, and theory, and now we've come to the end of the road. I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who supported this web series, and I can't wait to see where we go from here. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. I hope to see you here again soon, so until then, have a great day. Bye!